you'll hopefully get out of this is, let's say you're, brand new to the app. Obviously, you'll be able to learn how to create an account, know how to personalize it, because there are a few personalizations you can add to the app, which make it a lot easier in the long run. And then afterwards, I'll just be doing some kind of basics. So, have a sense of how to use the app, specifically with sellers and buyers, especially now in this environment where each escrow might be different, especially with some of the agent compensation rules. So I'll be going in pretty much showing you how to use Fidelity Agent One to do things like seller net sheets, how to personalize these for these sellers based off of whether the seller's paying the compensation or the buyer's agent is, etc. And then how to handle different things you might need for your sellers, like multiple offer situations, how to calculate those easily, and then other little cool flyers that you can share with them. And then for buyers, it'll be things like monthly payment estimates. So whether you're working with a buyer, putting an offer in on a house, or maybe at an open house and someone's asking, I'll show you how to really easily show people some helpful information that you can just create on the fly and then also share with them, text to them, email it to them. And now you have some information and they have a really valuable piece that you've created for them. And then a couple of other things that we'll do with buyers. So it'll be a good amount of information, but like I said, it'll be recorded too. And all these calculators, another nice point is the mechanics are fairly similar, where you have some kind of calculator. You just need some basic inputs, whether that's like a house price, purchase price, something like that. And then afterwards, it'll create those estimates for you so you can see it, but then you can also create a really nice template. So that's what's nice, is you can share that and text it or post it to social media. So let me just share my phone screen, because I'll be showing the app on my phone. I do recommend, if you don't have the app, to quickly, if you can, go to the App Store, download Fidelity Agent One. Let me just share my screen on my phone so you can see what to look for. And let's say you can't really get the app right now, no sweat. You can watch and kind of get a sense for the mechanics, and it will be recorded. So later you can follow along on your phone. So people should be seeing my phone screen now. Thanks for tuning in. We're just getting started now, kind of showing how to get Fidelity Agent One started. So in the App Store, all you have to do is search for Fidelity Agent One. It'll be this one right here that says Fidelity Agent One. That's the icon you're looking for. It's a free app, so go ahead and download it if you can. Alrighty, so people are still seeing my phone screen. Cool. All right. So step one, let's just assume you don't have an account. This will still be helpful, obviously, if you do. We'll go into the calculators. But if you don't have one, you just need to start with an email. So it doesn't really matter which one it is, just something that you'll be able to have access to, especially if you forget your password. Like, I can reset the password, obviously, if you forget that login, but you just need to have access to that email. So after you put in an email address for the first time, it's obviously not going to have an account for you. If you do have an account and you enter it in that email, you might see just the option to enter in your password, and then you can just kind of get started. Let me just create an account really quick. Hit sign up. So this is kind of the first step. So you just be entering in your personal information. So I'll just enter in my first name, my last name, my cell phone, company. And this is a nice little step because this information will be plugged in on every template that you create within this app. So let's say you create a monthly payment estimate for a buyer. It's going to have your name, your phone number, your email, and your company on it. So I'll just put Fidelity National Title, hit next. So this next step sometimes trips people up. They don't know what they need to be selecting or why they're selecting these things. So this basically helps with locating some of the fees that will be in all of those estimates. So whether it's a city transfer tax, documentary transfer tax, but also too, it'll help with selecting some of those escrows that you might be working with. So you would want to select, most of your cases, I'm assuming all of you are, I think most of you are LA-based realtors. You'd want to select California Southern, and the county, obviously select the county that you'll be working in. So LA County, I think for most of you. And then select office. I wish this was called select escrow, because that's what you're selecting. Is Fidelity Agent One is a estimate app. It's going to give you a bunch of different estimates that you can create for buyers and seller clients. So you will need, obviously, escrow fees for those. So the nice part about Fidelity Agent One is it does allow escrows to include their fees into each calculator. So these are the escrows that are actually already a part of the app. So you could scroll in here, and if you see the escrow that you work with associated, like I know we have some Keller Williams LA Harbor agents on here. So you have Westview Escrow that you can select, or if you're Keller Williams PV, you have Promenade. The nice part is, actually, I'll attach a PDF to this chat and I'll send it to Reliance Escrow. We have a nice form where they can just fill out their fees, send it to us, and then we'll plug them in the app. So they'll be in there, next day if we get that form. So I'll send it to Reliance afterwards, Vincent. That way you have them in all of your estimates.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to select one right now. Just select F&T Long Beach. That's just Fidelity's escrows, and select next. This next step is selecting rep. So you'd be looking for Rana Luna, Grant Luna in our case. And where this is helpful is if you ever get locked out of your app, and occasionally the app is going to force you to reset it just to get the newest fees and things like that. We can do that for you. So if you scroll down Rana Luna, Grant Luna, and select finish, and now you're pretty much all dialed in with the app. So once you're signed in, this is this next step, and this is also now with the new compensation rules. So what it's asking you is to set the defaults for all of your estimates. So if you're working with a buyer or a seller, how do you want your default estimates to show in terms of the buyer monthly payment estimate? Who's paying that buyer agent? So I can select, maybe I'll say ideally on my defaults, the seller's paying that compensation, and I think it's going to be 2.5%. And then I can select next. Same thing now, it's asking for my Seler Net Sheet, what some of those defaults can be. But the nice thing is you can always change these. So if you set a default that you end up not liking, no worries, you can customize it every time. So I'll select finish. So now your app's pretty much set up. I'm just going to select skip because this is just trying to provide an overview. And now you're pretty much good to go. So now you can start creating some estimates in this app, sharing templates. But before we get started, just wanted to give you a couple of quick tips about how to use this app a little bit better. So let's say you wanted to change some of your account information that's showing up on your estimates, or maybe you wanted to add some more, like your license number, your company address, etc. So how you can do that is there's at the top left of the screen, but it should be at the very top left of the screen. It's basically like 4 lines. It's right above add address. So if I select that, this nav bar will actually open up for me, and I have the ability to fill out my profile a little bit more. So I can go to profile, I can add more account information. So whether that be my company address, my website, my license numbers, etc. And then also too, like let's say I needed to change my escrow office. Maybe I switched companies and now I'll be using a new escrow that has their fees in this app. I can actually select Fidelity Agent 1 at the very top of the screen. And then when I use the link you sent in that email, we can always change it for you. So if you give me the email that you used for the app, I can just email our tech and then they'll just be able to switch that over to me. So that way if you get stuck. So if you just shoot that to me as a message, I'll be able to change that for you. Okay, so changing the escrows. So for Fidelity Agent 1, like I have that as my escrow fee currently. Let's say I needed to change that. At the very top of the screen, you'll see Fidelity Agent 1. So if you click that, this drop down will appear. And now what I can do is where it says FNT Long Beach, I can click that. Now these new escrows appear once again. So let's say I was going to change it to FNT Torrance. I can just hover over it, click done. And now that will be my new escrow for all of my estimates that I'm creating within the app. So just a couple of ways you can customize these and change it over time so you're not stuck with something on these estimates. Any questions so far? I don't see many others in the chat, but feel free to shoot some questions in there as we're going along. If not, I'll kind of just continue with some of these buyer monthly payment estimates. Okay, we'll continue. So first thing, we'll start with the buyer side. So that'll be like buyer monthly payment estimates. Maybe you want to help them with like multiple offer situations. We have some good estimates for that. So we'll start with this first calculator. And so basically how you'd get to these is the buyer tab at the bottom of the screen. Right now it's a blue house icon pretty much. And this will show a buyer for maybe a listing that they're putting an offer in, what their monthly payment would be, what actually makes up that monthly payment too. So whether that be principal and interest or insurance or taxes, it'll show them the closing costs. It'll break up which of those are fixed costs, etc. So we'll go into all of those. And so all you really need for this one to get an estimate is just a purchase price. So I'll just put in $950,000 right here. The nice part is it can handle different loan situations too. So let's say your buyer is an FHA buyer or a VA buyer, you can actually customize that. So where it says loan type, you can click that. Now you have all these different loan types. I can select FHA and done, for example. And now this will actually give me the max FHA type at the top of the screen. So just a nice little way you can customize these for different buyer clients. You can change down payment percentage. So let's say they're putting down more, but also it's nice is let's say they just have like a fixed financial amount, like maybe they're getting $200,000 from their parents and they're using that for down payment. I can select the dollar sign and then just put in an amount. So I'll say $200,000, for example. So you can kind of make it flexible that way. I'll put this at 20%. Interest rate will try its best to update with the market. I don't think it's daily, but I do see this change fairly frequently. But same thing, like let's say you're working with a buyer and they know their interest rate, you can obviously just change that within this app. The buyer broker fee, as we're scrolling down, this is where the new updates to this app help with that new agent compensation that all of you will be working with. So what this will allow you to do is dictate how much that buyer agent compensation fee will be and who's paying it. So you can toggle between the buyer, the seller, and both parties contributing to that. So let's say I'll say 2.5%. And maybe in this example case, I'll say it's split between the buyer agent and the seller. So I have that now within my calculator. Any seller concessions you can add. Hazard insurance will be somewhat of a default value that will be filled out for you. Taxes, same thing, that will be somewhat of a default that it'll try to find for each market, but I'll show you how you can actually get a nice estimated property tax amount for your clients. One thing to note is city transfer tax. What's nice is it does show you which cities have city transfer tax. So if you're really looking for a really accurate estimate, what I can do is click city transfer tax. I see those cities that require those. In this case, let's say I'm working in San Pedro, so that would be LA City. So I can click Los Angeles here, done. Now that city transfer tax will be attached. HOA, I can choose that, whether that be monthly amount or annual amount. And then there's that escrow fee that I was showing, so FNT Torrents. What's nice always too with this app is if you can like add an address. So let's say I'm working with a buyer and I know the property address that they're submitting an offer for. So I'll click add address right at the top left of the screen. This is helpful for buyers and sellers. You'll see where it comes into play for sellers. So once you add an address and click it in that dropdown, what it will do in terms of working with buyer monthly payment estimates is it'll generate an estimated property tax amount for your clients. So that way, when you're showing them that monthly payment estimate, they're seeing a pretty accurate representation of what they're paying each year within that monthly payment for their property taxes. So I can click done. Once I hit compute now on this, you'll see this pop up in the buyer monthly payment estimate. And that's basically what I was just saying, where it'll say, hey, we noticed that the property taxes for this property are estimated to be $7,000, but in actuality, your client is buying the property for $950,000. So it's basically saying an estimated property tax amount for your clients would be $11,000. You can hit done. That'll be now a part of the estimate. And now you have a really nice monthly payment estimate that you can show your client. I can show them the monthly payment amount. I can see out of that monthly payment, how much is going towards principal and interest, how much is going towards taxes, how much is going towards insurance, and then in the bring to close amount. So I can see how much of that is the down payment, how much is that is the prepaids and fixed. I do think someone just mentioned PMI. I think that'll be in here, especially in cases where you're offering less than 20%. So then that will be included. And I believe it'll show up here, but if not, it'll for sure show up in the detailed closing costs also. Okay, quick point on the monthly payment estimate. So a couple cool features just to be aware of, like let's say I'm just at an open house. I want to share this information with someone quickly. I can hold my finger down over these two circles. It'll actually just have this nice pop-up where I can just text this to somebody straight from the app or email it. So that way, now they have my cell phone, I have their cell phone or email, etc. And then kind of working now with those new buyer agent compensation rules and show you how these calculators can help you. So this would basically, in terms of that compensation, be a part of these fixed costs that you're seeing on the top right of the screen. So it's kind of that orange square. It says fixed cost for $25,000. So to show you how that impacts that with this calculator right now, it's showing the buyer broker fee is split between the buyer and seller. I can even click detailed closing costs. It's kind of towards the bottom middle of the screen above edit address. So I can click that. And actually I can go down and see all of those closing costs broken down in detail. And then if I go to the bottom, I can see where that buyer broker fee is playing in. So it's part of those other fees in the app. And then a quick note about some of these. Sometimes you might see these estimates. You can always edit some of these. So let's say I look at this and I see the notary fee for $175. Maybe I don't want to include that in my estimate. So I can actually click edit at the top right of the screen. I can go to notary fee, basically take it out of that estimate, click done. And now I can choose whether I want notary fees taken out just for this estimate or every single estimate moving forward. So I'll just say for this estimate, and now I have this new closing costs. So just to play around with that buyer agent compensation so you can see the impact. Right now, the fixed costs are looking to be around $25,000 for my buyer client. They have obviously some of the escrow fees that are fixed costs, but then they have part of that being the buyer agent compensation. So let's say I come down to split, or sorry, to buyer agent compensation, and I choose split. Maybe I want to change this to the buyer paying all of it in a certain situation. I can press done. Now I'll see those fixed costs went up. Now my buyer is paying all of that buyer agent compensation. And I can go to detailed closing costs once again, go to the bottom, and now I see that buyer broker fee being $23,000. I'll go back. Let me go to buyer broker fee, change it to seller. Press done. Now I see those fixed costs went down quite a bit. I can click detailed closing costs again, go down. Now there's no more buyer agent compensation fee. So just really flexible in terms of any situation you're working with the buyer. So whether the seller's paying for it, the buyer's paying for it, whether they're paying it together, I can change those for each of those estimates. Any questions so far? Everyone doing okay with these estimates, some of the features? I guess one cool little thing too that I remembered about this app is, like, let's say I created this estimate and, clients looking at this mortgage amount and they're like, hey, this is really high. How could I get this payment down to like 5,500? A nice little feature is I can click edit under that monthly payment up here. Let's say I go to 5,500, press done. It'll actually adjust this on the fly. So now you can basically show them what they need to bring in, so now they need to bring in an extra 6.27% on top of this. So just a really nice, dynamic calculator that you can work with. And then before moving forward, the nice part about this app, this is kind of a mechanic that is for every single calculator that you'll find in here is you'll have the calculator, you'll have some input, you'll put in that estimate, you'll get the results like you have here. But it always goes a step further where you can take this information and it'll create a really nice shareable template for you. So at the top right of the screen, anytime you see that, try to interact with it. It's a share button where it has a square, an arrow pointing upwards. So if I click that, this menu will appear and I can click send full report. So now this will take that information from that last page and it'll put it on a template for me. So let's see when it loads. Okay, so here's that same information. So there's that monthly payment of $5,500, the bring to close amount that we just had for that property. It'll bring in that address for me up here, the prepaid costs, a breakdown of that loan, the monthly payment info, closing costs right here. And then also if I go to page 2, I have all of those detailed closing costs. So title fees, escrow fees, and these are realistic title fees based off of Fidelity National title fees. And this is, in this case, F&T Torrance's escrow fees. Any escrow you work with, their fees would be in there. And then I have that buyer broker fee right there. So you can really see all of the breakdown. So I have another share button, so I can click that at the top right of the screen. I could text this to a client, email it to them. I can post this on Facebook, maybe as an estimate before an open house, just a really easy social media piece. So let's say I wanted this information, but maybe I don't like the look of this one. I can actually click templates at the bottom left of the screen. So when I click templates, now I have this pop-up where I have the same information, but a different looks. So I can click any of these. It'll regenerate it for you. Some of them you can actually add property photos. So let's say you wanted to upload a few photos of the property for these estimates. And then another cool feature is I can change the language. So let's say I'm working with a client that speaks a different language. I can click customize at the bottom right of the screen. I can choose language. Let's say I have a client that speaks Korean. So I'll just select Korean. And then in a couple of seconds, it's going to take that estimate, translate it into Korean for me, or any of those other languages that I selected. And now I can just share that with my clients. So that's true for most of these estimates in terms of create a flyer for you. The only ones you can translate though are the buyer monthly payment estimates and seller net sheets. A lot of the other ones that I'll show you in brief, like rent versus buy estimates and whatnot, those will just be in English. But these monthly payment estimates and net sheets, these are translatable. So now I have all of this in Korean and I can go ahead, hit that share button, text it, email it, print it, etc. Okay, so I'm going to show one cool, before I move to the seller net sheet, feature of the buyer monthly payment estimate. So in this app, when you do a buyer monthly payment estimate and seller net sheet, they have this, like, I guess it's kind of random, a feature where if you like shake your phone a little bit, so like I have my phone in my hand right now and I'm just going to shake it a little bit. So after I shake it, and if you try it yourself, it should work. And if it didn't work for you, what you can also do is make sure you have your like phone lock horizontal off. So I can turn my phone to the side and this menu will appear. So either shake your phone a little bit, turn your phone to the side. This will actually give you a super helpful calculator, in my opinion. This was something that I always struggled with myself, when I was representing buyers and it'd be like a multiple offer situation. They'd ask me like, what should we go up to, etc. And I always found that really hard to answer, but I thought this would be a really helpful calculator for those situations. So what this will help you do is show how a change in the buyer's offer price will impact their monthly payment. So you can show like whether it'll be a $20,000 increase in the purchase price. Maybe that'll be just a $120 increase in your monthly payment. So it really makes it easy for that buyer to kind of create that top end range for a multiple offer situation. And so what you can do is kind of customize these ahead of time. So it's basically asking me right now, how do I want this calculator to look for my buyer? So how it looks right now is it'll show them a range of offering a little bit under, offering a little bit over, and the increments of this are in $10,000. So I can customize whether it's showing both increasing or decreasing, or just increasing or just decreasing. And I can also change those increments so I can make them bigger or smaller. So I'm going to click the toggle or the settings toggle. It's at the bottom left of this pop-up. It looks like a little gear. So I'm going to click that. I can choose whether I want this to be 25,000, 50,000 increments right here. So I'm going to do show difference 25,000. And I can click that toggle again at the top right. And if anyone's getting stuck on this part, let me know. Happy to go over it again. So I'll click that again, and I'm going to show just increasing. So maybe I'm going to really prepare them for a multiple offer situation where they might have to offer a lot higher than the purchase price. So now I have this calculator. It's going to show $25,000 increments in the offer itself, and then how that's going to impact their monthly payment. So what I can do is click that share button. It's at the bottom right now of this estimate. So I'll click that. Now it's going to create a nice estimate for me, which shows how offer price affects payment. So now they can see, okay, our initial offer is going to be $950,000. Let's say we have to go up to $1,050,000, basically. That'll be a $637 difference in our monthly payment. So as a buyer, that seems super helpful. I think I would have to imagine if I was in a multiple offer situation where I can maybe stomach a $300 increase in my monthly payment for a house that I really, really want to live in. And if it's going to take $1 million, so $50,000 over the offer price, I can do that. So then what I can do is once again share this. So let's say I'm submitting an offer for a client. I send them the offer to sign. I can send them this along with like a buyer package and text it to them, email it to them, etc. If you have appointments now with buyers where you need to really kind of negotiate things and express your value as a buyer's agent, I think this is something that might help in that process too. Okay, so let's go back. Any questions on that one? Did everyone kind of do okay with that little that calculator? There's one for the seller like that too. But so nice to know. No issues. Okay, cool. Let's go to the seller now. So we'll do like a net sheet example. So this would be, you have a listing presentation coming up. You wanted to have something nice where you'll show a seller client if they decide to sell at a certain list price, how much would they walk away with, accounting for escrow fees, title fees, compensation, etc. So similarly for this one, there's just a few inputs you need. So you need at least a sales price. So let's say I'll come in here and I'll say maybe I'm selling a condo in Long Beach. So maybe I've done some sales comps. I think this property is worth $625,000. So I'll just put that in here. This one, the main things that I would change would be the seller broker fee, buyer broker fee if needed, any repairs that are needed. Maybe you've done some work ahead of time, and then a seller loan balance. So that way they can see, obviously, they need to pay out those outstanding debts. And after they've done that, what can they really walk away with? A couple of things that are useful here is adding an address. So I really recommend doing that first because it will help you find the most recently recorded loan on a property, and then it'll help you calculate how much is remaining on that loan. So what I can do is click add address again at the top left of the screen. I'll enter in a property address. I'll do a condo this time just to show you. It will find the condos for you too in terms of the unit numbers. So I'll click apartment 7, hit done. And now it'll find the most recently recorded loan on that property. So this is super helpful. You know, if you're just on the fly, really need to create a net sheet quick. It'll show the estimated annual property tax this person is paying first, but here is where that loan will be found for you. So right now it says for this property here, it found a loan recorded in January 2021 for $454,000. So now to help you try to find how much is remaining on that loan, and all you really need to do is enter in an interest rate. And the nice part is it will find the average interest rate at the time the loan was created. So in this case, that's January 2021. And the average interest rate at the time was 2.915%. I'll just put in 3 and round it, hit compute. And now it found, based off that original loan amount, based off the interest rate of that loan, estimated that they have 418,000 remaining on this loan. So I can just press use estimate. That'll plug it right into the net sheet for me. I do want to mention though, is let's say you have a case where you're working with a seller and you know for sure they have more than one loan on a property. It's not going to find all of those loans. So in those cases, you can always reach out to me as a title rep and I can get a nice property profile for you and help you calculate how much is remaining on that particular property, especially with multiple loans. It can get a little tricky with these, but for a lot of cases where someone has just, you know, one loan on a property, it's super helpful just to create these net sheets. Okay, so now going to the seller and buyer broker fee, and I did forget to mention this for the last, for the buyer monthly payment estimate, is you can change how this is being called in your app. So let's say I didn't like seller broker fee, I can click that and it could be seller concessions, broker fee, finder's fee, etc. The same with the buyer broker fee. I can change that. So I'll say in this case, it's 2.5 on both sides. And I'll start with the buyer broker fee being split between the buyer and seller. I have that city transfer tax I can choose from. In this case, the property's in Long Beach. I don't see Long Beach in here, so I don't need to select it. So it does have for LA County all of the cities that have that transfer tax. Now I'll just hit compute. And now I have the net at close amount. So basically I can show somebody if you listed your property at $625,000 and you sold it for that and you accounted for escrow fees, title fees, compensation, etc., this is what you'd walk away with. So same thing, I can put my finger on it, just text, email it really quick if I just hold my finger down on the circle itself. And same thing, we'll kind of take a look at how these new agent compensation rules, whether it's buyer, seller, or splitting, how that impacts those closing costs. So that would once again be a part of that orange box closing costs, so that $29,000. So I'll go to detailed closing costs. And now I see at the bottom that buyer broker fee, seller broker fee. So I can really easily show somebody right then and there what that cost would be. Once again, I can edit any of these at the top right. If I needed to remove these, like the notary fee, I could do the same thing. I'll go back. So now let's show whether it is, I'll say seller. Let's say seller's paying all of the compensation. So now that closing costs will be changed. I'll go to detailed closing costs. Now we'll see the difference there. Let's go back to seller. We'll say buyer pays everything. Now in this case, closing costs are going to go down. If I go to detailed closing costs, I no longer see buyer broker fee at all. So let me go back to split to the original. And same thing, I can go to that share button at the top right of the screen. I can go to send full report. This is going to generate a nice estimate for me, which has those different template options I can have in different languages. I could even change the color too. So let's say I didn't like this specific color. Maybe I needed like the KW color, the Sotheby's color, Remax color, whatever it may be. I can click customize, color options. I can change the look of this estimate. I need to change it back to English in this case. So I'll go customize, language, English. And mechanically, the buyer monthly payment estimate and seller net sheet are very similar. So you have that ability to choose the different templates. You can share this really easily. So I can click the share button at the top right. I can text it to my clients. Maybe I'll be, meeting them tomorrow and I just want them to have it. I can email it, put it as a nice part of a package. And just to mention, we do have the ability to help you with VIP property profiles. These would be nice booklets that we can send to your office same day or next day, depending on when they get them going. It'll have sales comps, title information, everything you might need for a listing presentation. But this is a really nice piece to include in that too. So you can create that net sheet based off what you think that property is worth and include that in that package and just slip it in the nice little binded book that we give you. So that was just a quick little seller net sheet. A couple of other cool ones that you can use with your listing presentations or just listings in general that we'll go over for the seller. The first will be just like a really nice multiple offer calculator. So let's say you have this listing, you want to be able to show your client based off the breakdown between these two offers, how much they would net for these two offers. So once you've created a net sheet, you can actually see where it says multiple offers towards the top left of the screen. I can click that here, multiple offers. Another way you can get to multiple offers is just by clicking calculators. Like let's say you don't want to have to create a net sheet first and you just wanted to plug in multiple offers. I can go to calculators at the bottom of the screen and then multiple offers right here. I can just come in here to multiple offers, but I'll just go back to that net sheet. So I'll click multiple offers at the top left of the screen. So what this will allow you to do is enter in as many offers as you want, really. I've tried to like add 30, 40, 50 offers and it kept letting me add them. So you really can handle a lot of offers here. So what you'll do is you'll enter in a offer price. So I'll say 640,000. Let's say this person offered $15,000 over asking. Maybe they offered 20% down. Their offer is John Doe, or the buyer agent name. They put down $30,000 for their earnest money. That's the home warranty amount they asked for. The buyer broker fee, it's 2.5%. And we'll say they're saying the seller will pay all of it. They can add an escalation clause too. So let's say they said, they'll offer up to $650,000 or, $1,000 over the next highest offer up to that amount. You can keep track of contingencies too. So let's say 7-day inspection, and maybe they said 14-day appraisal. And then I can add notes too. So I'll click add offer just to add this one. I can click add new offer. Maybe they're offering a purchase price of 635, so a little bit less. Down payment, I'll say 20%. Jane Doe as the buyer agent, I'll say earnest money of 35,000. And in this case, I'll say they're going to split the compensation between the buyer and the seller. I'll say 7-day inspection and maybe no appraisal. I'll hit done, add offer. Now I have these two offers. Like I said, and in this case, I'll just go with these two. So I'll click the share button once again at the top right. Anytime you create a calculator in this app, pay attention to that share button. It's there for every calculator and it'll create a really nice template for you. So I'll click send full report. So now this will show the two offers. It'll show the notes that I added to the different contingencies, and then it'll show the net at close amounts for those two offers based off the term of those offers. And that'll obviously include the escrow fees, the title fees, needing to pay off that loan, etc. So it will show the difference, obviously. So in this case, it'll show these two different net at close amounts. And in this case, it kind of shows where that ability to track the different buyer or buyer representative compensation amount is really helpful. Where in this case, you have one offer that's actually coming in at $640,000. So a little bit higher than that other one at 635, but obviously you're able to net more close of escrow because in offer two, that buyer is helping with half of the portion of the buyer compensation. So it makes it really easy to track these. And let's say you had 6 of these offers, it would show 3 on a page, show you 2 pages of those offers. So kind of a nice little package that you can share. Once again, hit the share button, text, email it, etc. Canmu said, can these details be saved per transaction so that the next day one would not need to recreate? I'm assuming, are you saying like for like a seller net sheet, could I save a specific net sheet itself and then just kind of go back to it? You can. So let me go to the full template. Oh, here it is. Okay. So once you create the estimate, so like net at close, this is where I'm at right now. If you click the share button at the top right of the screen and then go to save estimate right there at the bottom. So you can name the property address. You can even have folders in those saved estimates. So let's say you wanted to like break it up by clients. And then how you would find those would be clicking the very top left, those 4 lines, kind of how we went to edit the account. If you click that and then go to estimates, kind of towards the bottom, and then you have these. So I think I just did this one, the seller conventional estimate. So I can click on that. It'll take you right back to it. Good question. Thank you. Okay, so we just did the multiple offer calculator. Another cool one really quick I'll show you is holding costs. So let's say you're like working with a seller. Actually, before we do that one, let me show the other one. I'll show the kind of the counterpart to that one we use for the buyer, where if you shake your phone or turn it to the side. So I'll turn my phone to the side now. It gives you a pretty similar one where you can show a seller client a situation where how an increase or decrease in the purchase price of that property, how that will increase the net at close amount. So let's say maybe I'm trying to show the benefit of maybe listing a little bit lower as a seller and then letting the market kind of bring in multiple offers, raise the price up a bit. So I'll just show increasing amounts of 25,000. So now once again, I have this information. So I have the sales price starting at 625. Maybe that's on the low end. And then I'm trying to show them, look, we can really get this thing bid up to $675,000. And that'll, be a difference of $50,000. And I think in this one, you can only show the net at close amount, not the differences like that monthly payment one. But I can click the share button at the top right again. Same thing is going to give me this information. So I have it, nice little flyer that I can once again just click the share button and text or email it to people. And then the other one that's cool is holding costs. So based off of a property and the taxes they might have and utilities, it'll show someone how long it'll actually cost to keep holding that property. So let's say you're meeting with a seller and maybe they want to price it really high and you think it's way higher than it's going to actually sell for, and it might take a lot of price reductions and might take a lot of time on the market. You can show someone the actual cost of holding on to their property. So this is just based off the initial information, but you can even add more expenses. So I could be sitting down with them and they can maybe have an HOA amount of $300 a month, and maybe their monthly utilities are $650. I can add other monthly expenses. Maybe they're paying, a gardener or whatever it may be. Now I can show somebody the cost of actually overpricing their property. So I can break it up by a 60-day period, 90-day period. I can show months instead of days if I wanted to, and show those costs. And same thing, like I said, every calculator is going to have that share button at the top right. And now I have that flyer. So this app can help you a ton if you're just looking for nice little pieces you can add to listing presentations, kind of showing the value that you can provide as an agent, just really good information that would help clients in a lot of different scenarios that they might not be aware of. Any questions? So I know we've kind of covered a decent amount, and Vincent said, yep, I am recording this. So thanks for coming, Vincent. Great seeing you as always. And I'll email it out a link, and hopefully I think I'll be able to break it up so it'll make it easy. But thank you, Vincent. Thanks for tuning in. Questions. So we're kind of at 11:42. I wanted to leave it open for questions if people have any. I will kind of talk briefly about some other good calculators if no one has any questions, and I can talk about other Fidelity agent features too. And while I wait, give some space for questions. I'll kind of show, let's see. I'll put this in the chat. I think people are seeing my YouTube channel right now. I'll find the link and share it with people, but I do have a full playlist and videos on this too. I'll put a link to this in the chat so you can see it. I upload these pretty often. I would say like once a week. But it's not always Fidelity Agent 1. We have a bunch of other resources, and I'll be doing these Zoom classes consistently too. So that's in the chat now. So if you could check those out, feel free to, always leave comments, feedback. It's much appreciated. So if no one has questions, I'll just kind of do a couple of quick calculators to end it for today. Thanks for coming in, Mary. I appreciate it. I'll just finish with 2 calculators for the day. One that's really cool, I would say, is this qualified calculator. So I think this is a really nice one to go over with like prospective buyers, maybe people that are just starting that process and you want to really help them out, give them good guidance about what they can afford in a property. So if I go to calculators at the bottom of the screen, what this will allow you to show somebody is based off their annual gross household income, based off various monthly debts that they have that are recurring, how much they can afford in a monthly payment, and then based off that monthly payment, what is that house price they can afford? So I can just, in essence, have this on my iPad, have it up at an open house, allow people to come in and maybe they can put in their gross household income. So I'll say they make 180,000, and I'll just put in one recurring debt of car payments of $650. It'll keep adding more of these recurring debts. I'll hit compute. So now it shows based off an annual gross household income of $180,000, and that one recurring expense, they can afford up to $4,200 in a conventional monthly payment. I can click on that conventional payment. Now it'll show that desired payment. This is just a nice little quick calculator that I can hit compute on, and it'll show the actual house price that they can afford. So this is a 10% down estimate. It's saying if they did put that down based off their income, based off their debts, they can afford up to $590,000. So I can slide this over to $20,000. That'll dynamically change to $680,000. I can put it down to maybe 5%, and now it'll show the impact on that purchase price. And obviously it could really change things. If you're just about to start showing them properties and they want to look at a specific neighborhood, you can run them through this and maybe say, hey, based off of this price, it might be tough getting into that neighborhood, or maybe there might be other neighborhoods you can get into that might be really helpful. And then same thing, click a share button at the top right of the screen, send full report. This will take that information and then put it in a report for you. So just a nice little monthly affordability calculator that you can work with. And I'll probably finish up with there for now, because I know a ton of info just in one setting can be a lot to work with. But I will show just kind of like some of the different flyers you can create using this app. Let me just stop sharing my screen really quick.
Brent, do you have a calculator for people that are curious about leasing?
I don't think we would on this app. So you're saying like just to show them, like what would you hope to show them? I guess just kind of like the first year cost or something like that.
Yeah, and then like maybe like including the compensation as well, since it's like it's going for the agent, from them potentially.
I think there might be a way you could like use the buyer monthly payment estimate and tweak it for like a lease. Is it like a 1 year like commitment and then you get paid a percentage of that first year?
Yes, so like if it was a $3,000 lease, like you would just multiply that by 12 for the year,
Huh?
and then you like get like whatever 3% or 2.5%.
What you might be able to do is alter the buyer monthly payment estimate to work for a lease. So like maybe I come in and then for the house price, I can put it at 36,000, and then maybe I would say, because what does it usually have to do, like a deposit, like first and last or something?
Now it's just like a 1 month deposit and then first month's rent.
Okay, so let's just say I'm wondering
Or
if we
like if it could show like prorated amount for like if they were to move in like at the end of September.
Hmm,
So they would get like a few days in for September and then pay like 4 months rent for like October.
good question. I don't know if it would show, it does have custom proration, but let's see. Maybe I'll kind of have to play around with that. I do think like your best bet would be doing a monthly payment or a buyer monthly payment estimate net sheet, but then just obviously changing it to be for the lease. So then like I guess it'd be like let's say 3% of that 36,000 paid for by the buyer agent. Thanks, Camu. I appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. It should be on my YouTube page too. So if you just go to Grant Looney YouTube, it'll be a long video on there. But yeah, I think that might be how you might be able to do that. I guess you would have to do like a loan and then change the down payment to maybe be like the first 1 month's rent and like let's say it's $3,500 in rent. I'm wondering if that would like work. Like you'd show the bring to close amount, the fixed cost of paying the agent, obviously, and then what you'd probably have to do is delete a lot of these. Like you'd want to delete the title policies, the notary fees, all of those things, and kind of get a more accurate estimate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't think. The one thing I'm curious about is, oh, and also someone asked earlier, I think they just left. But they asked about PMI. So this is a good example to show that. So this is a case where they offered less than 20% down. So now we have that PMI in there. Yeah, like the monthly payment frequency, that might be something, Rolla, but we just take kind of like some finagling. So I'll probably leave it with that today. So the recording should be out soon. I'll try to cut it up and show these different calculators, and I'll be having these Zoom classes moving forward. So I think probably the next one might be on Fidelity Agent again, and I'll go over a bunch of these other calculators. So really good ones for like equity review, showing whether a buyer should wait or wait 2 years and then buy a property and how that would impact things, being able to do rent versus buy estimates, monthly affordability calculators, etc. So there's a bunch you can do in here. So I'll have another one coming up soon. And then from there, we'll kind of do different classes. So really appreciate everyone tuning in today. Hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully the recording too is helpful. So if you weren't able to be here, you can just check it out or follow along. And then any questions, comments, you can always email me at grantlunafidelity@gmail.com or text me 310-480-1085. So thanks for tuning in again. Hopefully everyone that's still here has an awesome day. And I'll talk to you soon. Later, everybody.